parking shouldn't slow you down. ParkWiz gives every driver a shortcut. Book ahead, save up to 50%, and skip the hassle of circling the block. Park smarter, park faster. ParkWiz. Download the ParkWiz app today and save every time you park.
This episode is brought to you by Capital One. Capital One's tech team isn't just talking about multi-agentic AI. They already deployed one. It's called Chat Concierge, and it's simplifying car shopping. Using self-reflection and layered reasoning with live API checks, it doesn't just help buyers find a car they love. It helps schedule a test drive, get pre-approved for financing, and estimate trade-in value. Advanced, intuitive, and deployed. That's how they stack. That's technology at Capital One.
You know what's wild? Most people are still overpaying for car insurance just because it's a pain to switch. That's why there's Jerry. Jerry's the only app that compares rates from over 50 insurers in minutes and helps you switch fast with no spam calls or hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Before you renew your car insurance policy, do yourself a favor. Download the Jerry app or head to jerry.ai/ACAST.
Picture this. You're in the garage, hands covered in grease, just finished up tuning your engine with a part you found on eBay. And you realize, you know what? I could also use new brakes. So where do you go next? Back to eBay. You can find anything there. It's unreal. Wipers, headlights, even cold air intakes. It's all there. And you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. You order a part, and if it doesn't fit, send it back. Simple as that. Look, DIY fixes can be major. Doesn't matter if it's just maintenance or a major mod. You got it, especially when things are guaranteed to fit. So when you dive into your next car project, start with eBay. All the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love.
This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. We tell you what you need to know, follow up on the context of those stories, and help each other understand.
Oh, Dr. Niki's going to help us understand today. She's going to tell us all about robot antelopes.
Okay, I didn't know that
existed.
Say
that again. Robot antelopes. And YouTube increases its appeal to live streamers and podcasters and even moves some of the ads out of the main video window.
Yeah, really interesting stuff that we're going to dive into. But first, I'm Jason Howell.
I am Tom Merritt.
And now let's dive into it. Let's start with what you need to know with the big story. So there's a lot of news coming from Google/YouTube. I mean, it's all YouTube related. So figure, I don't know. We'll just kind of list some of these things out. I'm sure we'll have plenty to say because it's really interesting, some of the changes.
It's made by YouTube.
Yes. Big live event that they put on and basically had just a whole slew of announcements related to live, related to shorts, related to podcasting. So this kind of three segments that we'll discuss this morning. Slew of new features coming to YouTube Live. Many of them, or some of them anyways, AI driven. A lot of the other features outside of Live, very AI driven. We'll talk about that. But YouTube Live rolling out, they say it's their biggest update yet. Some free little mini games called playables. This might be the most insignificant thing. I don't know why I led with it. That can be played during live streams, which YouTube sees as kind of like an entry point for new streamers. So they're looking to kind of create new streamers and give them tools or platforms upon which to build a fan base. So that's kind of what the playables might be all about. Support for dual format streaming. And I'm actually really curious about this. It's always the question right now. It's not just automatically horizontal as it has been for so many years for you and I, Tom Merritt. But now vertical obviously has become very popular. So as live streamers, do we stream for horizontal or for vertical? Apparently now we won't have to choose according to this dual format streaming option.
Quibi is vindicated.
Yes, I know. Way ahead of its time. I mean, seriously. A new AI-powered highlights tool so you can turn key live stream moments into shareable shorts. We'll talk about that in a few minutes here. New side-by-side ad formats. You alluded to this. Monetizing streams without interrupting the live content because Who doesn't hate, who doesn't hate when you're watching something and then suddenly, and especially with live, because you could truly miss something important, and then boop, it takes you away, plays the ad, and then comes back and you miss that thing. Now apparently side-by-side ads. And then channels with memberships can switch from public to members-only streams on the fly. I think that's super interesting. I don't really work much with YouTube memberships, but that could be a really, strong appeal for creators who want to create something special for their members.
Yeah, I like all of these. The free mini games, like you said, is probably the least impactful, but it is an interesting thing to be like, hey, if somebody wants to get started streaming and they're not sure what to talk about or what to do video, like maybe they're like, I know what I want to talk about, but what do I do video wise? Is it just going to be me? That's kind of interesting. I doubt it'll really make much of a difference, but maybe it'll get a few people to start
training
streaming.
Wheels. That would kind of training.
Yeah. Sort of but the dual format streaming is great.
Yeah.
My only concern there or fear is too strong a word. I'm not afraid, Jason, of dual format streaming.
Okay.
But is it going to be the things I want to do? Like, is the Apple announcement, is the Pixel announcement, are those things going to be available? Because it has to be approved by the entity streaming the live event. And so I think it's going to end up being less useful than it sounds. Although I love this idea. More and more artists are doing this where they like combine their streams. Cat's Eye and Le Seraphim were just doing it yesterday. So I think that's a new thing. Also that vertical horizontal video thing, Apple announced it, supporting it in the next version of the iPhone. Twitch supports it now. It's kind of becoming a thing, for people to do. And then, the side-by-side ad format, like, sure, great. New ad format that doesn't interrupt the stream. That's good. It's not always going to work, right? It's not not every ad's going to be there. We're going to get plenty of ads in the stream. So don't expect that to change. And then, switching to members only streams, if your membership is predominantly on YouTube, is a great thing. For us, where our membership is predominantly on Patreon, we're going to do it the other way. We're going to stop streaming on YouTube and continue the stream on Patreon and stuff like that. But for YouTube creators, I think it's a great thing. So these all seem like very good features that I would love to take advantage of, but they're not going to come to me until later next year or even later than that.
Yeah, so much of these announcements are like, either we're seeding it to a special group and you'll hear more about it in the coming months. They always seem to say that, right?
This will start with a limited set of creators named Mr. Beast.
Exactly.
It'll be more than
we'll
that.
See what happens. Yeah, I think of all of these, I think the dual format is probably the most interesting to me, specifically just because I have had people who are like, I love what you're doing with your live stream, for like AI Insight or whatever. But if you stream to vertical, I've heard that, that will kind of get more views because they want to make sure that there's more vertical live streams and everything. And, this sort of feature might play around with that, but I haven't really messed with it because I don't want to isolate one versus the other. I know a lot of people that, probably watch the podcast that I do are used to the horizontal, and I want to appeal to kind of the newer generation that is so firmly implanted into vertical and everything. So having a tool to be able to simulcast into both is really, really desirable to me. We'll see how it works, I suppose.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that. Like, how do if you're going to be safe for both, you're going to have to be right in a little square in the middle.
You're going to have to be dead center. At the very least, dead center. I think as far as cameras are concerned, like, I'm not too concerned about that necessarily. It's when you start throwing around dynamic elements of like, here I am on the side boxes, and then we've got a big box that has the web page we're looking at. This is all totally inside baseball for just
but the framing of everything is going to be different. Yeah,
absolutely. So we'll see how well it does that. And kind of speaking of that as well is Shorts, which is another big avenue that YouTube focused on. And here it's almost exclusively about generative AI tools. So if you are the type to be rolling your eyes at the fact that there's so much generative AI on YouTube already, I hate to say it, YouTube's kind of like doubling down now and saying, why don't you do more? And that could, backfire, I suppose, for certain viewers. But a bunch of new features. Custom version of VO3 fast. It creates at 480p, which is not the highest quality, but I guess you got to start somewhere with sound. You can apply motion from a source video to an image. So if you upload an image of you standing there and then you take the video of someone dancing, you can apply that image that's dancing to the photo and it'll animate it. And then I guess you create a short out of that, or I don't know.
That's how you can make me look like I know how to dance.
Yeah, there you go. See, that's all it takes. It's that easy. Apply sound or dialogue from one video into a new short as the soundtrack source. This is powered by Google's Lyria 2. You know, when I see this or hear this or think of this rather, it's kind of like the TikTok approach, right? Like this is so much of what is done on TikTok is applying the soundtrack of one video to a new video. And then edit with AI feature, which actually places raw footage into first drafts. So you could take all your footage pieces, you know, your music transitions, voiceover options, all that kind of stuff. And it would, I guess, assemble it for you. I'd have to be really convinced that would work well enough for me to want to use, but I'm curious nonetheless.
I imagine, and because they're saying first draft, or you were saying first draft, I guess, they're saying this will speed things up. It won't make a final edit for you, but it'll get things in place for you to where you're like, oh, I just need to make a couple of tweaks here instead of going through the tedium of laying everything out on the timeline.
Right.
This other stuff, I'm a little less confident is going to end up making things easier. Actually, the applying sound or dialogue could speed some things up for folks. But if I'm only going to get DVD quality from VO3, there's a limited use case for that. It's not like it won't be useful for anything, but I'm not going to be using it for a lot.
Although, they always seem to start somewhere and then give themselves runway or the ability to upgrade. So you have to imagine that at some point that upgrades to 720 or
exactly
or something.
Again, it's that's a cool feature that I can't wait to take advantage of when I'm 60. And it's finally mature.
Yeah, that won't stop people from using it, though. I guarantee you, this means more generative AI content on YouTube.
I don't see that much generative AI content. I think it depends on your algorithm. So
totally does.
I say this to myself all the time. This is not me being preachy. If you're seeing something you don't like in your algorithm,
Stop watching
because of you.
Yeah, that's a hard truth, Tom.
Yeah.
But I think you're absolutely spot on. And then finally, podcasts, which is very, near and dear to our heart, turning episodes into video clips in YouTube Shorts. That includes audio only shows. So video podcasts will get an AI assisted clip suggestions. Is very similar to a service I use called Opus Clip. I think maybe you use it as well for, determining which pieces of long form content and podcasts we should break out into little shorts and everything. And it does a good job, half the time, 3/4 of the time. It's never perfect.
Again, it's a nice assist. Where it gets you pointed in the right direction. Yeah.
Doesn't always just do things 100% the way they want you to believe in their promotional.
So YouTube is Sherlocking Opus. Got it.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly what's happening here, which I'm kind of surprised they haven't done sooner, because so often I use the YouTube studio tools and everything. I'm like, why can't I just do that over here instead of there? So it turns out it's coming soon. Also, audio podcasts, like I said, being able to generate customizable videos with the tools. Again, like a tool like Opus Clip allows you to take an audio podcast and just say, generate B-roll for this. And it either matches it with actual B-roll that exists in the library, or it generates with generative AI B-roll to match. It's always weird and wonky in my opinion, but maybe these systems get better over time and maybe YouTube's the one to do it right.
I can't wait to see what it does with DTNS audio only.
Yes. Yeah, totally. When we're not talking, the thing where this falls apart is when you're not talking about something very identifiable.
Yeah.
Like that last sentence that I said. What the heck would you cover with B-roll?
It's going to be a fever dream. I know it. And I'm kind of there for it. I don't think it's what YouTube intends me to use it for, but I'm like, I can't wait to see what it does. I'm very curious.
If I'm not saying words like brown dumpster or, arcade cabinet in dingy arcades
salad
from the
zombies.
80s. Yeah, exactly. That it has no idea what to generate.
We could just start messing with it by,
totally
sprinkling those kinds of imagery into our discussions.
I love it. So that's it. That's what I turned up.
All right. Well, DTNS is made possible by human listeners, at least so far.
That we know.
Big thanks to alleged humans, Michelle Sergiu, Kirk Stephenson, Miranda Janelle, and new human patrons, TM, Joe, Kenton, and Kirsty. And a big thanks to G. James B for the raise. We love it when somebody who's already supporting us goes, you know what? I'm getting even more value. I'm going to give a little more value back. So thanks, everybody, for that.
Picture this. You're in the garage, hands covered in grease, just finished up tuning your engine with a part you found on eBay, and you realize, you know what? I could also use new brakes. So where do you go next? Back to eBay. You can find anything there. It's unreal. Wipers, headlights, even cold air intakes. It's all there. And you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. You order a part, and if it doesn't fit, send it back. Simple as that. Look, DIY fixes can be major. Doesn't matter if it's just maintenance or a major mod. You got it, especially when things are guaranteed to fit. So when you dive into your next car project, start with eBay. All the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love.
Parking shouldn't slow you down. ParkWiz gives every driver a shortcut. Book ahead, save up to 50%, and skip the hassle of circling the block. Park smarter, park faster. ParkWiz. Download the ParkWiz app today and save every time you park.
You know what's wild? Most people are still overpaying for car insurance just because it's a pain to switch. That's why there's Jerry. Jerry's the only app that compares rates from over 50 insurers in minutes and helps you switch fast with no spam calls or hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Before you renew your car insurance policy, do yourself a favor. Download the Jerry app or head to jerry.ai/acast.
Hey, it's Maya and Sim from the Girls That Invest podcast. If you are an IT or security pro, you know managing devices, identities, and applications can feel overwhelming and honestly risky. That's where Trellica by 1Password comes in. It helps conquer SaaS sprawl and shadow IT by discovering every app your team uses, managed or not. With pre-built app profiles, you can assess risk, manage access, and even optimize your software spend. Plus, it simplifies onboarding, offboarding, and compliance, all while cutting costs by eliminating unused licenses. Take the first step to better security for your team. Learn more at onepassword.com/special offer.
Every idea starts with a problem. Warby Parker's was simple. Glasses are too expensive. So they set out to change that. By designing glasses in-house and selling directly to customers, they're able to offer prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Warby Parker glasses are made from premium materials like impact-resistant polycarbonate and custom acetate. And they start at just $95, including prescription lenses. Get glasses made from the good stuff. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.
Plenty more we need to know today, so let's get to the briefs.
You know, this is like handing in your homework assignment at the beginning of class. Ahead of testifying to the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee, OpenAI announced that it will soon launch new user policies aimed specifically for those between 13 and 18. OpenAI says if you're younger than 13, we don't want you to use ChatGPT. If you're younger than 18, we're going to put in some new policies meant to address mental health and legal concerns tied to the use of chatbots by minors. So by the end of the year, OpenAI is going to have an age prediction system. This is their words, an age prediction system to estimate age based on how people use ChatGPT. It will default if it can't tell. If it's like, I don't know if you're a teen or not, it'll default to teen protections. And then they will, quote, give adults ways to prove their age to unlock adult capabilities. In some places, that'll be an ID, but OpenAI seems to not love that idea. So there's going to be some other way for you to prove your age, and they didn't detail that. Also, I think more nuts and bolts for folks. Enhanced parental controls are coming soon. So when a teen links their account to a parent, and the teen has to do that, the parent can then control chat history storage, few other settings like that, a few privacy settings. It can set blackout hours and get alerts when distress is detected. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman wrote, "We prioritize safety ahead of privacy and freedom for teens. This is a new and powerful technology, and we believe minors need significant protections."
So how are they going to estimate the age? Are they going to use their AI algorithm or their AI model to take you take a picture of the user and then I
don't even think they need to do that. I think
that
just based on responses, and he kind of alluded to that in the post. These systems are really good at being able to say, like, that is the kind of response that generally a person who's 16 would give versus a person who's 22. When you get to like that line of 18, telling a 19-year-old from an 18-year-old gets dicier. And I think that's when they're going to have a few more false positives. Saying we'll default to teen protections in those cases is going to be annoying to 19 and 20-year-olds, but it's the right thing to do, quote unquote, when you're in this atmosphere. So it won't be 100% accurate, but they're better than I think a lot of people give them credit for.
Sure.
Whether that's 90% good or 80% good or 95% good, I guess we're going to find out.
Yeah, and something better than nothing. This is a conversation that Jeff Jarvis and I have on AI Inside a lot around guardrails. Put that in air quotes. As guardrails is, the terminology that they jump to around like, well, we've got a program in there that there's protections for this thing. And Jeff's argument is often like, you could throw all the guardrails you want. This is AI systems and it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. They get these things wrong. And I'm firmly of the opinion of like, that may be true, but I also want them caring enough to try.
Yeah.
And I see this as that. They're caring enough, whether compelled to or ahead of being compelled to or not, to try. And I think ultimately that's good to have, but it doesn't solve all the problems. And I think at the end of the day, that's important.
We didn't even mention that, even if it gets the age protection 100% right every time, it also has to get the guardrails right that you're talking about. And teens are really good at figuring out how to get around guardrails. At least,
they are.
I was, and it seems like the teens these days are even better. So,
and the teens these days are growing up with these tools, so they're more adept in ways that you and I we're having to learn them and override our own knowledge and understanding around technology.
We were adept with growing up with the tools that were new for our parents. The way these teens are growing up with these. So
exactly. You put like a Commodore 64 in front of me. Bam.
Peek and poke all day long.
That's right. Well, Meta Connect 2025 begins tomorrow, September 17th, at the time of this recording anyways. This guy named Jason Howell wrote about it for ZDNet and what to expect at the event. And I'm not going to refer to myself in the third person anymore.
Oh, come on. Ricky Henderson this thing the whole way through. Let's do it.
So here's the thing, though. I wrote about the rumors and my article went up yesterday morning. And then Meta went and leaked a video on its YouTube channel confirming a bunch of them.
That just makes you look smart.
I suppose so.
See,
I was right for like a few minutes before Meta said, they didn't call me by a name.
But they didn't disprove you. They just confirmed you. So
that's true. Hey, I like the way you think. The now removed video that they leaked, whether intentional or not, I'll leave that up to everyone else to decide, showed off an assortment of glasses, including, the Ray-Bans that we know and love, the Oakley Houstons that I actually already have, the Houston limited edition. Beyond that, Oakley's Meta Sphera frames that have added eye protection. They're a wider kind of eye protection style. I don't know what you call it. And a centered camera above the nose. So instead of the camera off to the side, it's above the nose. I really like that. That's perfect for sports scenarios and first-person video, that sort of stuff. But the big leak is Meta's monocular frames in a partnership with EssilorLuxottica, black frames that feature a fixed HUD, so heads-up display, that can show Meta AI content. It can show navigation, maps, that sort of stuff, a whole lot of other stuff. Also teased in that video that, by the way, like I said, is now removed, was the SEMG wristband. This has been highly rumored. It's meant for interactivity and control of those specific glasses and the display that's on those glasses. So you'd wear them and it would pick up on like muscle twitches and other things.
Yeah, and they've showed off that wristband before. They just didn't say yet for, sure what it was going to be used for. It looks like we'll find out tomorrow.
Yes, indeed. And beyond that, no new Quest hardware expected. So if you're really hoping for new VR hardware coming from Meta, you're probably not going to get it. It is possible that Asus may show off its long-rumored ROG or ROG. I can never remember how to pronounce that. Tarius headset. This is a premium alternative to Meta's VR hardware. I think some are putting it in the price range of somewhere around $1,000 if you had to guess. The event begins tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific. Keynote by Mark Zuckerberg kicks it off.
Yeah, evening keynote. And,
yes.
Pour yourself a whiskey or
right.
Hot toddy or
a scotch and VR,
warm milk and honey, and and enjoy. So this is Hypernova, right? That's what the rumor has been, or the code name has been, for this heads-up display. And it's not going to be like Apple Vision Pro, from what we've heard. It's just going to be small notifications, right? Like,
yes. Yeah. As far as we know. And I mean, I have a little bit of insight into this from my trip, that seems to come up time and time again because it's all relevant. Last December, I think it was, to Google's campus to check out their Project Astra glasses. And part of that tour, they showed me a version of their Astra glasses that were both, one of them that was binocular, exactly like these. And I think there's a lot of overlap as far as what they'll offer, exactly what you're saying. And then also a version that was, that was monocular and then binocular. And so I saw two different versions of it. This is just a single display. They say it's not like augmented reality. It's not like you can pin something to the wall and have it stay there, that sort of thing. But it is just a heads up display that appears over your eyeball, essentially.
Like it could show you a notification in text. It could give you an arrow to like turn right here.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. And no new Quest hardware from Meta, but they're going to fill that gap with third parties because they want other people to use Horizon OS. So
and we know about the third party kind of aspect, and we're just kind of waiting on the hardware. So tomorrow seems like a really prime time to hear about or see some of that.
All right. We will have all the details and Jason's scorecard of what was right or wrong on Thursday's episode. The Internet Archive, along with several major music publishers, have settled a lawsuit over the Great 78 project, which had plans to digitize 3 million old 78 records. These are shellac records. These are rare recordings. These are not ones you're buying a lot, but music publishers are very litigious. We don't know what the details of the settlement are. So we don't know if Archive is going to be allowed to, have limited storage of these or what. But they did avoid paying a lot of money. The record companies were, they make these numbers to be as big as they can possibly convince a judge. So they were arguing $700 million in damages because, we all know that we spend $700 million a year in this country on 78s.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
Anyway, comeback, let me tell you.
Our Archive will not have to pay that. We don't know what they'll have to pay or if they'll have to pay anything. This is similar to a case they lost with the book publishers last year, which also resulted in an undisclosed settlement. So we may not ever know.
Well, at the end of the day, anything that keeps the Internet Archive rocking and rolling, like if 700 million, which, as you say, was inflated, if that would have bankrupted the company, I would have been incredibly sad.
I don't know if we can do a 78 effect on my voice, but you keep going, Internet Archive.
You have got this. Apple issued security updates for older iPhones and iPads to patch a 0-day vulnerability that had already been fixed on newer devices. So good on you, Apple, for rolling out this fix to older devices. The flaws related to the Image I/O framework. It can allow attackers to exploit memory corruption with malicious image files. That can lead to remote code execution, so no good. iOS and iPad OS versions 15.8.5 and 16.7.12 are now addressed with the security update.
The surface attack for older iPhones with this particular vulnerability is not big. Apple could have been forgiven for not patching this on older phones. A lot of companies wouldn't. So I want to give them credit for going back and doing the extra work to make it work on the older phones.
100%.
TSMC is going to begin producing chips on its 2-nanometer process in Q4 this year. That's something they've announced. And China Times sources say that Apple has ordered about half of the capacity of that 2 nanometer process. Reportedly, most of that would be for the A20 and A20 Pro chipsets, which would be used in next year's iPhone. Remember, the A19 and A19 Pro is what's in the iPhones that are coming out this week. But also there would possibly be a new Mac processor, a new Vision Pro co-processor. Both of those would also come in 2026. And Apple is reportedly adopting TSMC's wafer-level multi-chip module. That's the packaging. It's known as WMCM. Packaging, if you don't know, combines multiple parts together. So the wafers cut out all the CPUs, and then you package your CPU, your GPU, your DRAM, etc. so you can integrate it. WMCM does it in a smaller package. That's going to make it more power efficient. In some cases, it'll make it easier to cool, depending on the design of the product. Chips made on the 2 nanometer process also benefit from power efficiency as well as higher performance. So you can expect any device from Apple or anyone else made on that process to have longer battery life, be more powerful, and again, depending on the design, lighter and thinner. It'll also cost more, though. TSMC's 2 nanometer process is estimated to cost around $30,000 per wafer, and yields are in the hundreds. They're fewer than 1,000 chips per wafer. Depends on where you look. Sometimes it's 300, sometimes it's 700, but these chips are going to be expensive.
2 nanometer. It's the age of the 2NM right now. And that's not a bad thing.
It's going to make the battery life longer on anything made with chips from that process. That's the takeaway for anybody who's like, that was a lot of acronyms and things. So what you're saying is my battery will last longer next year without having to be a bigger battery. Cool. I like that.
Is it wrong of me to get hungry every time you say wafer?
No. Just don't try to eat a wafer level multi-chip module. It will not taste as good as you want it to.
I don't even know if I'll ever have the opportunity to try to eat one of those. So I think we're good. Arzen launched the first projector running Roku's tvOS, and it's called the D1R Cube. So this is a good projector, I'd say, if you're looking for like an entry-level projector and you want Roku's tvOS and not something like Google TV on the device. It can cast images up to 150 inches, but has limited brightness, 330 ANSI lumens. So that means that it requires a very dark room, also maybe even a reflective screen for you to get the best output out of it, but it's possible. It can take in 4K content. It only outputs to 1080p resolution. So that's a little bit of a step down there. The projector has an automatic focus feature. That's nice, along with keystone adjustments. Also includes a pair of 5-watt speakers built into the body. And you can get it now for $169.99. Not that expensive.
This is not that great of a projector. It's not awful, especially for the price.
Right.
But it's Roku on a projector, which is bad news for Google, which has been the one area of televisions that Google has been able to dominate with its operating system. So sorry about that. Those are the essentials for today. Let's dive a little deeper.
Well, do you want to collect data on Tibetan antelopes? I mean, we all do, right? We talk about it all the time.
How am I going to do that, though, Jason?
Why not become one? Or better yet, make a robot that they can accept.
Want to collect data on Tibetan antelopes? Why not become one? Or better yet, make a robot that they can accept. Dr. Niki, it's so great to have you back.
It's great to be here with a fun story. You know, we love the weird robot stories, so I found a great one for us today.
Yes. So tell me how we ended up with a robot antelope in a herd of antelopes.
I'm not sure how, but we have one. So in the northwest of China, in a national reserve, there is a 5G ultra low latency AI equipped bionic antelope that roams the plains.
So it's 5G in that it's getting its internet connection and feeding back data and firmware updates, I suspect, possibly over wireless. So it can be connected without having to go back and be plugged in and downloaded.
Yeah, it's not going back and forth and charging and coming back.
AI equipped means, I'm guessing here, like computer vision, so it can walk around,
computer
all
vision.
Of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then bionic? Does it have superpowers?
It's an antelope that's a robot. I guess that's where they went with bionic on this. That's about it. I mean, it's just a robot.
All right. So what are they using this for?
All right. So the researchers in China wanted to collect real-time data on China's Tibetan antelope population. These are classified as near endangered antelopes. And the problem is if you're a human and you go up to them, they all run away. So the data that we can collect just by walking up to them is limited. So the Chinese Academy of Science and Hangzhou-based robotics firm Deep Robotics worked together to develop this kind of weird looking, sort of antelope looking robot.
Now it looks weird to me, but apparently it doesn't look that weird.
Yeah, so apparently the antelopes have accepted it into their herd, which is hilarious because it looks really kind of janky. Basically, overall, the shape and the fur color matches kind of the antelope, but it's not very graceful. If you've seen the Boston Dynamics kind of dog-shaped robot, this is Deep Robotics version, which is called the X30. And basically, they just like took a foam antelope and stuck it on top and then like covered it with fur.
The other antelopes are probably like, oh, this guy, he has such a hard time getting around. I feel bad. Well, let's accept him into the herd. He needs us.
So the benefit of this robot, though, and I guess they're okay with it, but it can get way closer than a human can. And the humans are there. They're just stationed up to 2 kilometers away from the robot where it can collect its data and send it out. So we talked about its AI capacities. It can capture footage. It's looking at the different movements of the herd, their speed, and importantly, whether or not the herd is moving towards a road. If it notices that they are, it can signal employees at traffic control and help it pause the traffic so that the herd can cross the road.
This is why I am not involved in this, because when you said if they head towards a road, it can signal it, I was imagining, and then the robot antelope tries to convince them to turn around.
or just stands in the road and it's like, beep, beep.
But no, maybe traffic control is a better way to go with that.
When I first read that sentence, I was like, how does that work? But yeah, they just call traffic control.
So they're tracking, important things to understand the herd, right? Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I like that. How does it get around? Because I never been to Tibet, but I understand it is a quite mountainous and rocky place. It's
actually not super favorable to humans. It's a really rugged terrain. The plateau's average altitude is around 4,600 meters. There's strong winds, freezing temperatures, and not necessarily terrain where you would want to send a robot. There's muddy slopes and lots of rocky ground. But because it has this kind of dog type robot, those are pretty good at scrambling over ground. And so it looks silly when it's running, but it actually manages pretty well. And when it's running around with the herd, the kind of AI part is using this vision recognition system. And it's live transmitting data through these 5G platforms and immediately analyzing it. So researchers are trying to figure out the antelope's feeding patterns, animal growth in real time for the babies, and if they have different kinds of migration routes. So it's pretty cool, and also like a positive thing that AI is doing, which is nice once in a while.
No, this is like Jane Goodall level, research.
But like Jane is spelled with AI in the middle.
JAI. Oh my gosh. When we get the version of this for chimpanzees and apes, that definitely has to be the name of it. This is great. It seems like, it shouldn't work, but it is. So that's good.
Yeah, and it's a great species that they targeted, probably because they are so accepting of it. I think maybe something like chimpanzees might like break it, but this species of antelope is kind of one of those keystone species that's an indicator for the general health of the area. So if they start, losing numbers, then you can think that maybe the whole ecology is getting damaged. So being able to monitor that remotely, more or less, is really cool for wildlife research. And I can imagine them adapting this to a lot of different things. Like maybe we'll get some underwater ones. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you can have an AI cow robot for cow herds. There's like a lot of options out there.
I could see that being useful for farmers to just kind of keep tabs on the health and activities.
Let's get a tuna.
And growth. Yeah. Dolphin.
Yeah. More robots.
Tibet, where the bots and the antelope play. Thank you so much, Dr. Niki, for explaining this story to us. If folks want to follow you as you come across these sorts of things, where should they go?
Yeah, and send me more animal robot stories over at NicoleAckermans.com, where I will try and post these and you can share them and look them up.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Have a good one.
I had no idea antelopes were so altruistic and accepting. They're like, yeah. Look, okay, we feel bad for you. We'll take you in. It's cool.
It looks a little weird, but you know what? Let's give him a chance.
Just don't tell him that, okay? Let's just welcome him in. Yeah.
If you are a robot antelope that would like to tell us about your experiences in the herd, maybe it's not as nice as it sounds, or you're just a regular old human who wants to join in our conversations, we have a Discord, and you can become part of it by linking your Patreon account at patreon.com/DTNS.
Picture this. You're in the garage, hands covered in grease, just finished up tuning your engine with a part you found on eBay, and you realize, you know what? I could also use new brakes. So where do you go next? Back to eBay. You can find anything there. It's unreal. Wipers, headlights, even cold air intakes. It's all there. And you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. You order a part, and if it doesn't fit, send it back. Simple as that. Look, DIY fixes can be major. Doesn't matter if it's just maintenance or a major mod. You got it, especially when things are guaranteed to fit. So when you dive into your next car project, start with eBay. All the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love. Banking with Capital One helps you keep more money in your wallet with no fees or minimums on checking accounts and no overdraft fees. Just ask the Capital One bank guy. It's pretty much all he talks about, in a good way. He'd also tell you that this podcast is his favorite podcast, too. Ah, really? Thanks, Capital One bank guy. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
We end every episode of DTNS with some shared wisdom. Monday, Tom and Rob were talking about the perception that might come with a change in TikTok U.S. ownership. Now, Anand Jr. has some further thoughts along those lines.
Yeah, he said, if I remember correctly, someone did an experiment where they took Google search results and dressed it in a Bing results page and vice versa. And there was a strong preference for the Google results, even though they were actually Bing's. I wonder if something similar could be done with TikTok and Instagram, though the biggest difference is likely in the culture of what is created, shared, and consumed, e.g., would Instagram's algorithm produce TikTok-like results if the input and consumption patterns were the same? Random first cup of coffee thought, but I thought it was a good one.
Yeah, and I also wonder, like, TikTok has long been, and I've certainly, shared the view that before, so it's not at all original, but that TikTok's algorithm is just, it's supreme. It's wonderful. It absolutely knows exactly what you want. Compared to the other algorithms, it's the best, or whatever the case may be. I wonder, because I feel like that's an opinion that has been around for quite a while. I wonder if things have improved on all the other ones and they're all very kind of similar now, because I don't recognize other algorithms being comparatively horrible. Now
there is something magical about the TikTok algorithm, but whether that's as true as it used to be, is a very good question. Turns out Financial Times reporting today that China has said that part of the upcoming deal would be giving a license to the TikTok US entity that would be created to use ByteDance's algorithm. So I guess we won't find out if this all goes as they're saying it is. And a few other leaks out there that Oracle would be leading the charge of the new consortium that would own it. People in the US would have to get a new app, but otherwise it would interoperate with the rest of TikTok.
Fascinating. Well, what are you thinking about? If you have insight into this story or any of the stories that we talked about, or antelopes, send it to us. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. Big thanks to Anand Jr. Thank you to Dr. Niki for contributing to today's show. And thank you for being along each and every day for Daily Tech News Show. You can keep us in business, and all you have to do that is become a patron at patreon.com/DTNS. We'll see you tomorrow.
DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
This episode is brought to you by Capital One. Capital One's tech team isn't just talking about multi-agentic AI. They already deployed one. It's called Chat Concierge, and it's simplifying car shopping. Using self-reflection and layered reasoning with live API checks, it doesn't just help buyers find a car they love. It helps schedule a test drive, get pre-approved for financing, and estimate trade-in value. Advanced, intuitive, and deployed. That's how they stack. That's technology at Capital One.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.